I arrived at my granddaughter Madison's birthday party holding a small gift I had wrapped myself. The brownstone in Manhattan's Upper West Side was filled with elegant white orchids or its soft jazz servers in black vests. I hadn't been invited as much as I had been expected. That subtle difference had been growing louder over the years. "Grandma Elaine is here," my son David announced to the room without looking up from his phone. The way he said it, as if the weather had shifted slightly mildly inconvenient, but nothing to stop the party over. I clutched the box in my hands a little tighter. Inside were two handmade dolls, one of Madison in a wedding gown, the other of her fiancé, Chase, in a tuxedo. I had spent 3 weeks knitting them, my fingers sore and swollen from arthritis. What no one else knew was that inside Madison's doll, carefully sewn into the center of its chest, was a diamond that had been in our family for 3 generations. George, my late husband, had it reset for our 50th anniversary. Madison had hinted about it more than once. When it was time for presents, my daughter-in-law, Claire, tapped her glass. "Madison, darling, start with the smaller ones." Madison's eyes landed on mine and the package in my hands. She smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. I stepped forward and handed it to her. "Happy birthday, sweetheart." She took it with 2 manicured fingers, her diamond bracelet catching the chandelier light. Chase stood across the room, watching with the same expression he might use to evaluate a wine list. Madison unwrapped the box. A hush settled over the room. She lifted the dolls, holding them away from her cream-colored dress like they were something dug up from a dusty attic. "This handmade gift looks so cheap," she announced loudly, with a sharp laugh that bounced off the marble walls. Then came the rest: Chase's chuckle, David's too loud bark, Claire's polite titter, and a wave of laughter from people who didn't know me, didn't care to. I stood there burning, unable to move, the doll with the diamond hanging between her fingertips like an insult. That night, I returned to my apartment alone. I didn't turn on the lights. The quiet felt like company after what had happened. I sat in front of my laptop and opened my email. The subject line read, "Final venue confirmation, Whitmore Beach House." Attached were contracts from the wedding planner, florists, and caterers, all requiring my signature and payment. The venue listed: my beloved home in East Hampton, the same house George and I had bought 4 decades ago, the place where we spent our summers, raised our children, and where I had scattered his ashes beneath the cherry tree, overlooking the sea. Madison's message was short. "We've already sent out the invitations. Renovations start next month. Your old furniture will need to go." Not a question, not a request, a declaration. My hand trembled as I closed the laptop. I glanced at the keys to the beach house, still resting on the nightstand. George's initials were engraved into the brass keyring. My chest ached not from the humiliation of earlier, but from this cruel clarity. They didn't just want to use the house. They wanted to erase me from it. The next morning I received a message from David. "Mom, Claire found a great retirement community in Connecticut. We scheduled a visit next week just to look." I deleted it without replying. From my bedroom window, I could see the Manhattan skyline glinting in the morning sun. How many decisions had been made in those towers that shaped people's lives without their consent? Was I just another person to be managed? I didn't know where the thought came from, but I stood up, grabbed my purse and the beach house keys, and left without brushing my hair. The drive to East Hampton took longer than usual. My fingers ached from gripping the steering wheel too tightly, but I needed to see it, one last time, before they stripped it bare and turned it into a wedding showroom. As I pulled into the driveway, there was already a sleek black SUV parked outside. I didn't recognize it. I stepped out, my legs trembling not with age, but with something else. A quiet fury. The front door was unlocked. I stepped inside and heard voices echoing from the great room, the heart of the house where George had loved to play his old jazz records on Sunday mornings. "The wall between the kitchen and dining area can definitely come down," a woman said. "She won't mind. Mrs. Whitmore's barely here anyway." I walked into the room. There stood Madison, Claire, and a woman holding a digital tablet. My daughter-in-law wore her usual composed smile. Madison, perched on the edge of the counter, looked like she owned the place. The designer wore heels too high for a construction site and a tone too casual for someone speaking about my home. "Actually," I said quietly, "I do mind." All 3 turned. Claire recovered first. "Elaine, what a lovely surprise."
"We're just discussing small updates for the wedding." "Taking down a load-bearing wall isn't a small update," I said, placing my purse firmly on the granite island. Who approved these changes? Madison stepped forward with a syrupy smile. Grandma, we talked about this last Christmas. You said we could use the house and make it perfect for the ceremony. I said you could use it. I never agreed to renovation. It's not demolition, the designer cut in as though speaking to a child. It's modernization. The property has wonderful bones, but the aesthetic is dated. I turned toward the large window facing the ocean, the same view George and I had stared at during our morning coffee for years. White walls, minimalist furniture, the designer continued flipping through slides. Instagram ready, Hampton's chick. Then I saw it. The mantle where a photo of George and me used to sit was bare. In its place was a printed vision board, full of beige swatches and mood lighting. Where's my photograph? I asked. Claire looked around vaguely. Oh, we carefully packed some personal items to keep them safe during the updates. That night after they left, I went to the garage. 3 cardboard boxes labeled Elaine's things sat in the corner. Inside, I found the photo, our anniversary album, George's books, and the 2 knitted dolls Madison had mocked, tossed on top like junk. The diamond was still inside. My phone rang. David. Mom, about the retirement place we really should talk. And about the house, Claire, and I think it's best to move it into a family trust, just for tax purposes. I stared at the brochure on the kitchen table. Seaside Serenity, where independence meets assistance. They were already preparing for a life without me in it. The next day, I met Joan, my oldest friend, for lunch at our usual cafe near Central Park. Joan had never remarried after losing her husband. Men are like pastries, she always said, delicious but not essential for survival. She listened silently as I told her everything: Madison's party, the beach house plans, the trust, the brochures for retirement communities. When I finished, Joan didn't say anything right away. She put down her fork and looked me in the eye. Elaine, this isn't just rude. This is a hostile takeover. I blinked. I plinked. They're maneuvering to control your life, your assets, and your choices, and you're letting them. I wanted to argue. I wanted to defend them, but I couldn't because she was right. Later that week, I had a checkup with Dr. Levine, my cardiologist. He reviewed my chart, frowning. Your blood pressure is up significantly since your last visit. Any unusual stress lately? I laughed. Define unusual. He folded his hands. Elaine, at your age, stress is dangerous. I've seen too many patients land in the hospital after family conflicts. It's not just unpleasant, it can be fatal. His words sat with me like a weight. I'd survived breast cancer. I'd survived George's death. I'd survived raising a family through decades of change. Was I really going to let a group of spoiled relatives be the thing that took me down? On the way home, I walked past a small neighborhood bank, the same one where George and I had kept our safe deposit box. I hadn't been inside in years. Inside the box, everything was still there. Our marriage license, birth certificates, George's rare coin collection, and documents the rest of the family didn't know existed: insurance policies, account passwords, and the original deed to the beach house. That evening, my grandson Tyler called. Grandma, are you okay? You left the party kind of suddenly. I assured him I was fine. He hesitated. Dad left some papers in the printer at home. I saw investment statements, a second mortgage, credit card balances. I think they're in trouble financially. My grip on the phone tightened. As we spoke, I logged into my bank account. 3 failed login attempts had been made in the past week from an unrecognized device. So this wasn't just about the house, or a wedding, or even appearances. This was about desperation dressed up as family concern. I'd been on the defensive for too long. It was time to stop reacting and start responding. The next morning, I called George's old friend, Marcus Aldridge, an estate attorney known for his discretion. We hadn't spoken in years, but when he heard my voice, he said, Elaine, what's wrong? We met that afternoon at a quiet cafe tucked away from the busy avenues. Marcus looked older with more gray in his beard, but his eyes were still sharp. I laid it all out for him: the party, the house, the trust proposal, the financial red flags Tyler had uncovered, the attempted account logins. George would be appalled, he said. He expected better from David, I replied. Marcus reviewed the paperwork Tyler had emailed me. He spread out statements, mortgage documents, and bank alerts across the table. They're in deep trouble, he said. Second mortgage, credit card debt, failed investments. If you don't act fast, Elaine, they'll try to force decisions that serve them, not you. What do I do? First, secure your account. Second, confirm that all properties remain in your name alone. They do, I said. George insisted on that. Smart man, Marcus nodded. And third, he hesitated, then leaned forward. About the wedding. Do you still want to host it? I thought of the photo frame replaced with a mood board, of my gift discarded without a glance, of the assumptions that I would pay, accommodate, disappear. No, I said, I want to sell the house. He looked at me, surprised, then nodded. That's a definitive choice, but you'll need to move fast and quietly. That evening, I called Danielle Carter, a private real estate agent Marcus recommended. I need a buyer, I told her. For the East Hampton house, someone who values privacy and can close quickly. Danielle paused. That's a prime property, Mrs. Whitmore, but most beachfront listings take months. This one won't, I said. Not if we keep it off market and discreet. She agreed to scout options and promised to call within a week. The next day, I returned to the beach house alone. I walked through every room, touching the walls, the window frames, the oak banister George had sanded himself. I gathered the photo albums, George's books, and the wooden box that held a portion of his ashes. On the kitchen counter, I noticed a schedule for tent placement left by Madison's wedding planner. I folded it, placed it in the trash, and stared out the window. The sea was calm. I wasn't. But I was ready. The call came sooner than expected. Mrs. Whitmore, Danielle said, her voice brisk, I've found a serious buyer, a tech entrepreneur and his wife. They're prepared to offer full asking price and can close in 40 days sooner if needed, but they request total privacy. Tell them yes, I replied without hesitation. We scheduled professional photos for the listing, but only after I had time to clear out anything personal. That evening, I packed late into the night. The house was quiet, filled only with the sound of tape pulling and cardboard flaps folding shut. I left behind the decor. Madison had already chosen her fabric swatches and paint samples taped to my bedroom wall like they belonged there. I took only what mattered, George's ashes, our anniversary albums, the photograph from the mantel, and the dolls. As I was locking the front door, headlights approached. A silver sedan stopped behind my car. Out stepped a woman with a clipboard. Mrs. Whitmore, she asked, looking surprised to see me. I'm here from Evermore Events, just doing a quick layout check for the wedding tent. No need, I said calmly. The wedding plans have changed. The look on her face told me Madison hadn't told her yet. Good. Back in the city, Tyler joined me for dinner. Over roast chicken, his childhood favorite, I shared the news. I'm selling the beach house, I told him. His fork froze mid-air. Before the wedding, I nodded. The closing will be before the date they planned. They're going to lose their minds. Probably, I said. But it's my property. And they lost the right to assume anything when they stopped treating me like family. He was quiet for a moment, then smiled. You know what's strange, Grandma? I think I respect you more now than I ever have. And I've always respected you. His words made my throat tighten in a way nothing else had. After dinner, as we cleared the table, Tyler asked what I had expected. Is this because of what Madison said about the dolls? I paused, rinsing a plate. It's because that moment showed me exactly how they see me, and I can't unsee it. Some things once revealed can never be unseen. The first signs that my family had discovered the sale came at 11:23 p.m. 3 missed calls from David. 7 frantic texts from Madison. The last one was in all capital letters. Please tell Memmy this isn't true. I silenced my phone and slept soundly for the first time in weeks. The next morning, David showed up at my apartment, still in his running clothes, red-faced and sweating. What the hell are you doing? He snapped as soon as I was up in the door. Good morning to you too, I said, stepping aside. Coffee? I don't want coffee. I want answers. Jennifer Maxwell. A private sale? Weeks before Madison's wedding? I poured myself a cup, stirring in cream with quiet composure. Yes, I'm simplifying my life. You're sabotaging your own granddaughter's future. My house, I reminded him gently. David ran a hand through his thinning hair. We've sent invitations, made deposits. The venue can't be changed now. Then I suggest you start looking for alternatives. He stared at me, disbelief simmering into rage. This is because of that party, isn't it? What Madison said, she was joking, Mom, you're overreacting. I looked at him over my coffee cup, seeing clearly now what I hadn't wanted to see for years. This isn't about one comment, David. It's about years of behavior, yours included. What are you talking about? The brochures for retirement homes, the meetings with financial advisors I wasn't invited to, the attempts to access my accounts. He opened his mouth to deny it, then closed it again. I'm in trouble, Mom, he admitted, his voice suddenly quieter. The Westridge project collapsed. Investors are threatening to sue if I don't find capital. So this is about money. No, it's both. We're worried about you too. But you didn't ask how I was doing. You made plans behind my back. That's not concern. That's control. He looked away. The house closes in 5 weeks, I said, and the money will go into new accounts, ones you won't be able to touch. You'd do this to your own family. I walked to the window and looked out over the skyline. You already did. I moved into the Cambridge condominium on a rainy Thursday afternoon. It was nothing like the beach house, no waves crashing outside, no salt in the air, but it was mine. Clean lines, big windows, modern everything, and quiet. That kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty, just peaceful. 2 days later, Tyler came over with a bottle of wine and a small gift bag. A housewarming present, he said, handing it to me with a shy smile. Nothing fancy. Inside was a framed photograph. The beach house at sunset, golden light spilling through the windows, waves brushing the shore. It's beautiful, I said, touched. I took it last summer. I always thought that moment captured something important about the place. I glanced around my new space. You know what's strange, he said, settling into the sofa. You seem lighter here? Happier. I am, I nodded, because no one else's expectations are pressing down on me. We ate dinner pasta and garlic bread, and Tyler shared news I hadn't heard. My photography business is actually picking up. 2 galleries are interested. I'm thinking of focusing on it full-time. That's wonderful, I said. You've always had the eye for it. He hesitated. I haven't told Dad yet. About the business, or about the check you gave me. Don't worry, I smiled. He won't hear it from me. As he helped clear the dishes, I touched his shoulder. You're the only one who saw me, Tyler, the only one who looked past what I could give. He didn't say anything, but his eyes softened. That night, I stood by the large windows watching lights flicker on the Charles River. I waited for the inevitable messages from Madison, from David, from Claire. They came just after midnight. Voicemails, texts. David's tone was cold. We need to manage this fallout. Claire's message was brittle. You've hurt this family more than you know. Madison's, of course, was the loudest. 16 messages ending with, my life is ruined and it's your fault. I turned the phone face down and went to bed. No one asked how I was. But for once, I didn't need them to. A few days later, Judith called me out of the blue. I ran into Madison at Bloomingdale's, she said, skipping pleasantries. She was returning wedding gifts. I sat up straighter, and she looked awful, Elaine, not just sad, broken. When she saw me, she cried right there in housewares. That image lingered in my mind far longer than I wanted it to. Madison in tears, surrounded by platters and toasters meant for a future that had disappeared. Later that day, Tyler confirmed it. Logan ended the engagement. His parents pulled support. Madison hasn't left her apartment in days. I wanted to feel vindicated. I didn't. Instead, I felt something that surprised me, guilt's quiet cousin reflection. Was I any better than they had been? They dismissed my worth. I responded by erasing their plans. Had we all just been hurting each other louder and louder? That evening, David called. She's not well, he said. I know you're angry, but I'm asking, please call her. She won't see a therapist. She says it's admitting defeat. She needs help. I know, he said softly, but she won't hear it from us. After the call, I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I typed a message. Would you like to meet for coffee? Her reply came minutes later. Why, so you can gloat? No, so I can listen. There was a long pause. Then, fine, Cafe Darien, 2 p.m. I arrived early and chose a quiet corner table. Madison walked in exactly on time, sunglasses covering half her face despite the overcast sky. When she removed them, her eyes were red, her cheeks pale. You look terrible, I said before I could filter myself. She laughed a dry, cracked sound. Thanks, Grandma. Always comforting. I didn't mean it that way. I know, she said, stirring her untouched coffee. Logan's already dating someone else. Instagram official, 3 weeks after the breakup. I'm sorry. Are you? Yes, I said honestly. I didn't want this for you, but I also didn't want to be discarded. She met my eyes then. Really met them. And in that moment, something unspoken passed between us, not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe understanding. We sat in silence for a while after that. Then Madison spoke again, her voice low. You sold the house. You knew what that would do to me, to everyone. I knew there would be consequences, I said, but I didn't do it to hurt you. Then why? Because I finally realized something, that house had become more important to all of you than I was. She didn't respond right away. Her hands trembled as she lifted her cup. You humiliated me, she said. That party, it was the most important day of my life. And what was it for me? I asked gently. Do you know what was inside that doll you threw away? Her head snapped up. What? There was a diamond. My grandmother's. Reset by your grandfather for our 50th anniversary. Madison's mouth opened, but no words came out. You never even looked, I said. You just saw something handmade and decided it wasn't worthy of your attention. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't know. I know. After we parted, I didn't expect to hear from her again soon, but 3 days later, she showed up at my door. She held a small paper bag in both hands. I found them, she said. The dolls, they were in a box I hadn't unpacked yet. I thought I'd thrown them away. But she trailed off and stepped inside. We sat at my kitchen table. She pulled the dolls out and placed them gently between us. Then, with careful fingers, she opened the seam in the female doll's chest. The diamond was still there. She stared at it as if it were glowing. I don't deserve this, she whispered. It was never about deserving, I said. It was a gift. She pushed the doll toward me. I can't keep it, not now. But I needed you to know I found it, that I understand what I threw away. I nodded, swallowing the lump rising in my throat. I'm in therapy now, she added, her voice small. It's helping. I'm glad. I'm not ready to talk about everything, but maybe one day. I'll be here, I said. After she left, I sat for a long time holding the doll. The yarn had flattened, the colors had dulled, but it was intact. And so somehow was I. 1 year after Madison's birthday party, I hosted a small gathering in my Cambridge condo. The guest list was modest. Tyler, now thriving in his photography business, arrived with his partner, Emily. Richard came alone, no longer the man he once was, and strangely more at peace. Judith was there, of course. So was Marcus, my lawyer-turned-friend. And then near the end of the evening, Madison walked in. She carried a bouquet of autumn flowers and kissed my cheek. Happy housewarming, she said. Belated, I know. My home looked different than any place I'd ever lived. Gone were the heavy antiques and faded curtains. In their place, light, color, and simplicity. Tyler's photographs lined the walls. Every piece had a story. Every corner felt like mine. Over dinner, the conversation flowed easily. Richard spoke about his work at a nonprofit legal clinic, earning far less but doing work that mattered. Madison, quieter but more centered, mentioned returning to graduate school. Art history, she said, what I was studying before I got distracted. After dessert, Tyler raised his glass to Grandma Elaine, who taught us that it's never too late to stand up for yourself. Madison added, and that true value isn't always on the surface. Later, as guests gathered coats and said their goodbyes, Madison pulled me aside. I have something for you, she said, reaching into her bag. It was a small velvet box. Inside sat the diamond, now reset into a delicate silver pendant. I know you said I could keep it, she said quickly, but I had it reset for you. I think you should wear it, not hide it away for someone else's future. I lifted the necklace from the box. It sparkled in the soft lamplight. It's beautiful, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Madison smiled, eyes bright. When you sold the house, I was angry, but it made me confront a lot of things about who I was pretending to be and who I want to become. We stood in silence for a moment. Then I fastened the pendant around my neck. After everyone left, I walked to the balcony. The Charles River shimmered below, city lights reflecting off its surface. The beach house was gone. The family I once knew had fractured, but what remained, what had been rebuilt, felt real. Not perfect, but true. And mine.